I had him fight for what was going to heaven or something.
On January 7th, 2013, adequate notice of this meeting pursuant to the Open Public Meetings Act has been furnished by inclusion thereof in the annual schedule of meetings for 2013, which has been posted on the bulletin board of Borough Hall, filed with the Borough Clerk, faxed to the Our County Record, the Community News and the County Seat newspapers, and distributed to all persons if any requesting copies of same pursuant to said act. In case of an emergency or fire alarm, you must evacuate the building by using any of the exit doors from the room. They're immediately to my right, and the double doors at the rear of the room. Occupants must exit the building by using the staircase and not the elevator. This meeting is being recorded by both video and audio and may be rebroadcast.
Everyone please rise. Councilman Ballerini, please lead us in the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Roll call.
Mayor Palavano.
Here.
Council members Maroney,
Here.
Eisenberg,
Here.
Miglio, Ballerini,
Here.
Fleischman,
Here.
Fabre,
Here.
Borough Attorney Ronald Dario,
Here.
Borough Clerk Jean Pellegrin is here, Borough Administrator Roberta Stern.
Here.
Okay, public hearing on pending ordinances, adoption of ordinances.
Ordinance 613, an ordinance vacating a portion of Lexington Avenue in the Borough of Maywood, State of New Jersey. Ordinance 713, an ordinance amending the Borough of Maywood Municipal Code so as to revise Chapter 312, Section 7D.
Comments from the public and comments from the council. I'll entertain a motion on these.
Move for adoption.
Second. Roll call.
Maroney,
Yes.
Eisenberg,
Yes.
Ballerini,
Yes.
Fleischman,
Yes.
Fabre.
Yes.
Be it resolved by the Mayor and Council of the Borough of Maywood that ordinances 613 and 713B, and they are passed upon second and final reading, and that their Borough Clerk is hereby authorized and directed to advertise the same according to law.
Okay. Correspondence from Florida Borough Clerk.
I would just remind or let everybody know July 23rd is the deadline to register to vote prior to the August 13th special primary election. And the engineer report was distributed. However, the engineer will be at our next regular council meeting. And that's it.
Borough Administrator.
I don't have anything in open, Mayor, just a couple of things in closed.
Borough Attorney.
I have a closed session report, Mayor.
Committee report. Councilman Maroney.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, just a couple of things. On the recycling, there will be a townwide garage sale Saturday, October the 19th. People wishing to do so have to purchase a $5 permit. And when they get that permit, we will have a list of addresses and also maps available on the date for anyone who needs to see where the garage sales are happening. And there's, again, at Borough Community College Household Hazardous Waste Program, October the 20th. As far as the pool is concerned, we got new lifeguard chairs coming. We had quite a lucky meeting, and we were there, so I'll have to tell you that's all I have to say.
Councilman Eisenberg.
Just one thing, Mr. Mayor. Spoke with the building inspector. The Hackensack Hospital property, Route 17 is coming along. They had requested a temporary CO, but the building inspector said that the project wasn't there yet, didn't meet the qualifications for it. You have to have a completely separate area for the public versus the workers, and we didn't feel that it was adequate at this time. The same thing with respect to the Bank of America building. That requested it as well, and they were denied as well, but maybe in the near future, we'll do that. That's it.
Do we have any idea on when that Health and Wellness Center, when they're going to be getting close to being done with that building?
I think they've got a little more time, but drive by, you can see a lot's going on. But they got a while. And if they get a temporary CO, they would probably not do the issue now. But the building inspector indicates that the law is very clear on that. The public really has to protect the way they can construction or anything that's dangerous before a temporary CO can be issued.
Councilman Bellerini.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. One thing on the agenda tonight is the resignation of telecommunicator Sharon. Just wanted to let the council know there was no issue. He had a full-time job that made it next to impossible for him to continue to serve in that capacity. And so thank you for his time that he was able to give us. Off the agenda, I wanted to see if we could get a couple items added to the action list in my discussions with the chief. He's looking to get the pleasure of the council with regard to the K-9 program that was introduced earlier this year. And also we had some discussions starting last year about a second parking enforcement officer. So we can just add those to the discussion list and get an idea for what the council would like to do with those. I do have one item for closed session with regard to personnel. I'd like to take this opportunity also to send a thank you to Maywood PD for all their hard work over the July 4th weekend. The parade went off without a hitch. The chief reported only a couple of minor incidents with fireworks. Also take this opportunity to acknowledge the outstanding work of two detectives, Detective Sergeant Timothy Moran and Detective Rick Brown. You may recall we had a bank robbery in town back in March. Their work in collaboration with a couple other towns led to the arrest of two individuals that confessed to the TD Bank robbery and then were implicated and confessed to 5 other bank robberies in Bergen County as well. So we should acknowledge their good work. That's it, sir.
Question?
Oops, sorry.
It's a question regarding the telecommunicators. The chief recommending we hire another part-timer at this time, or we can cover with what we have?
He is. He's going back through the last list of applicants, and he'll be looking for someone to take that spot.
Thank you.
The part-timers generally work on an ad hoc basis. They're not normally rotated. The full-timers are rotated, and the part-timers come in when the full-timers aren't available, rather than have a police officer sit at the desk.
Thank you. Just a follow-up to the sump pump discussion we had a couple weeks ago. I know the engineer's not here tonight, but I just want to make sure that they're going to give us a price for testing the area and testing the soil. I don't want to drop the ball for another 2 weeks, so hopefully they can get on that for us.
Actually, he did get something to me, but frankly, there's so many things going on this week. I will look at it and let you know tomorrow. I think he did get back to me about a proposal.
Okay, if we can put that on the action list too, to discuss that amongst the group. And I do have one personnel issue in closed session. Thank you.
Council President Ray.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just want to thank all the towns that backed us up and attended our parade and the fireworks. List them. We have Elmwood Park, Rochelle Park, Saddlebrook, Hackensack, Lodi, and Moonachie, and many of those towns were also on the parade, and I want to thank them. Along with thanking the police, I want to thank our volunteers. I want to thank EMS, the fire department, and the fire police. They all were on standby, and they all did work, and they made it one of the best fireworks that we've had in years. I don't know if any of you realize, but if you blinked your eye, the place was clear after the fireworks. They were just gone. I couldn't believe how fast people were out of here, and I think that was doing large part to the police and the fire police. They did a great job, so hats off to them. And also, I'd like to give Roberta some kudos. Thank you, Roberta, for your work on securing the donations for the fireworks and the parade. It was stellar. There's a surplus. You just did a great job. Thank you very much. Lastly, the Maywood Fire Police is sponsoring a bus trip to Atlantic City on July 27, 2013, and would like the permission of the mayor and council to use Memorial School parking lot to accommodate parking. Oh, it is. I'm sorry. I was reading it down. You know, it was just pointed out to me by Mr. Maroney, because we're actually both on the CERT team, to thank the CERT team, and I apologize, I missed that, but they were there as well with the county OEM, so, once again. Well, it was passed to me throughout, I was the emissary, so that's all I have. Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. I didn't know you were on the same.
No, he's on the CERT team, we're both on the CERT team, actually. That's all I have, Mr. Mayor, thank you very much.
Okay.
The levity on this side.
All right. Briefly, echo the comments of all the council members, and thank everyone for the 4th of July and fireworks. Everything went off very, very well this year. Parade was great. The weather was a little toasty, but the weather was certainly great for the fireworks and for the parade. Certainly thank everyone on the 4th of July committee that was headed up this year by Vinnie Loisel and the American Legion, and everyone who did a great job on that committee putting the parade together again this year. And certainly would like to thank our Borough Administrator, Roberta, and our Borough Clerk, Jean, for helping get 2 new bands that we had this year. We had the most bands we've had in a long time, 6 bands this year. And also would like to thank the band that played for the fireworks, and for Steve Bloom, who was our DJ for the fireworks. Thanks Joe Sanzari for providing us with the stand for the end of our parade. That was probably the largest one we've had in a while. It was nice and roomy, and everybody had a good spot up there. It was nice. Certainly thank the Girl Scouts and Knights of Columbus and all of our local vendors for providing food for the fireworks. There's a listing of all of the major sponsors up on Pleasant Avenue on a sign that's on Pleasant Avenue and up on the Nickerson Park. We probably did the most fundraising we've done ever for the fireworks. So much so that we paid entirely for the fireworks and paid for all of the bands that were in the parade this year without any taxpayer money. So thank you, Roberta, for spearheading that and getting all the donations for that. And I think we're left actually with a surplus that'll go towards the Fall Fest and holiday celebrations around December. Again, we're thanking the DPW, the Police Department, the Volunteer Ambulance, the Fire Department, Fire Prevention Bureau, the Fire Police, the CERT team, OEM, and all the volunteers who helped make everything run smoothly for the parade. It was a really, really great weekend. Got a lot of good positive response from people. We'll have to try to outdo ourselves for next year, I guess. That's pretty much all I have. We do have 2 items, 2, I guess, resolutions that have to be, or 1 resolution rather. What's that? Okay, 2 resolutions that have to be rescinded that we've previously passed, and those were the resolutions that set August 1st as our switch over deadline for the state health benefits plan. We're going to have to move that back to September 1st, which was really the original date we had on the resolutions, just because we're not going to be able to switch over everybody at this time. So we'll have to take a vote to do that later in the agenda to rescind the prior resolutions. So that the new date will be September 1st, 2013 for the scheduling of the switch over to state health benefits plan.
Mayor, then we have to do a notice to BMed to extend another month with that coverage.
Okay. We could add that, I guess, to the council approval section of the tonight's agenda. That's all I have. Is anybody from the public, we can open to the public at this point. Anybody from the public wish to speak at this time? All right.
Hi.
State your name.
Lisa Calamaris. I just have a couple of questions. I'm not sure if everyone understands that Maywood Avenue Memorial School has 1 crosswalk. I know it's been brought up to everyone's attention in prior years, but nothing's really been done. Now that we have kindergarten at Memorial School, we have an abundance of traffic. I know there's really nothing we can do about the traffic, but there's 2 things that has my concern. 1, the crosswalk, that there's only 1, and I believe, or I feel there should be at least 2, by at least 1 by the kindergarten entrance. What's happening is that a lot of parents, especially when it's raining or snowing, and there's so much traffic, they're literally dropping their kids off in the middle of the street. And I know this has been said before, and it's been brought up to the town before, but it is getting dangerous every single year. I mean, there are kids coming out in the middle of the street, kids coming out on the driver's side, parents that are parking their cars onto the street, do not see these kids, or if they're parking across the street, they're not going to the crosswalk, they're just jetting across the street to get to the kindergarten doors. I feel, I would hope that we can get some type of crosswalk by the kindergarten doors to make the entrance for the kindergarten kids more accessible. The other question I have is, I live 2 houses in from Grant and Mendez. There's a stop sign there. During the winter months, if you're not familiar with that street, that stop sign literally is just, it's blind. You can't even see it. When the trees are in bloom, you can't see it at all, especially at night. The light on Grant Avenue, and I was actually brought this to my attention the other night, it's very dark. You can't see that light. You cannot see that stop sign. I'm asking what can be done to prevent, because the problem also I'm having is when school is in session, people are parking right at that corner, which already blocks the stop sign, and you're preventing people from crossing from Grant over to the other side of Grant and across to the other intersection. I know around town, or I'm not sure if I've seen it in this town, but in other towns I've seen a flashing red stop sign. I actually think it was in Lodi and in Lyndhurst that I saw it. It goes on when it gets dark out, and it blinks. It's a stop sign, but it just has lights that go around it, so people can see it, or if we can have lights up there. I have 3 young kids, well, 2 young kids really, that they're always playing, and being them the second house from that intersection, it's very, very dangerous. People are turning, they're not seeing, kids jetting across the street, there's no sidewalk on the other side, so, you know, it's becoming more dangerous every year, and it's going to become even worse this coming school year. So if that could be, something can be done for that, I would appreciate it.
Looking into putting a four-way stop there.
I actually set up a meeting because you sent me an email, did you not?
No, I did not.
Okay, maybe one of your neighbors did. Sent an email, and we have a meeting, I think in 2 weeks, with the superintendent, principal, and the police chief to talk about that section of Grant, from Mendez, basically to Fairmount. Because as everybody knows, everybody's had children who've gone through the school system at Memorial, they know that it's a heavily congested
It is.
problem.
It gets to the point that you can't even, two-way traffic,
Correct.
you can't even get through because there's people parking, and which is fine, you can park, but you can't maneuver. People have huge trucks or cars or whatever, and there's no way. It takes forever to get down the street.
Yeah, I think the purpose of this meeting is to try to start talking about what can be done there, whether it's changing the traffic flow, putting some kind of a recommendation for no parking at certain times, or what, because it does bottleneck certainly by the houses there, and it's certainly a burden on the people who live there who try to get out to go to work in the morning.
Right.
So I think we all need to keep looking at that. As I said, that meeting's going to occur within the next, I believe, 2 weeks.
Okay.
And hopefully come back to the board, council, and bring some recommendations, and hopefully address this before the school year starts again in September.
Now, would it be that I would have to speak here or to the Board of Ed of suggesting having kindergarten start maybe 10 minutes later and would release the flow of traffic?
You can certainly make that recommendation to the board of ed as well as us, pass it along, but I think the upper grades start on a staggered time, if I'm not correct, don't they? The first, second, and third start later than kindergarten, so they're already off schedule.
Well, no, the kindergarten starts at the same time Memorial starts.
No, they let the children in. I think the kindergartners' doors are open earlier than the first, second, and third grades.
I used to live there, and I made the same request 10 years ago. I think at the time there was a moratorium on four-way stops. At least that's what I was told. Although I've heard more recently that they're coming into favor again. However, I personally witnessed 2 accidents at that intersection when I lived there, and that was why I made the request. With respect to the crosswalk, I think that was also brought up a year or 2 ago, and the chief was here that night. The concern with the crosswalk was that if you put a crosswalk there, you're encouraging people to cross there, and there's no crossing guard. So your timing issue might address that, because if the kindergarten started a few minutes apart from the other opening, and I think there's actually 3 entrances. There's a kindergarten entrance, a first and second, and a third.
First grade, and then second grade on the other.
But right now, the kindergartners, because I had a kindergartner this year and a second grader, the kindergartners are 15 minutes ahead. The doors open for the kindergarten 15 minutes ahead of the rest of the school. So they do start at all times. The classrooms may not start, but the children coming in go in at 8:15. Well, I don't know where my daughter went this whole time.
Mr. Farrell comes out at 8:15, and that's when that door opens.
And that's when that door opens, but the door on the other side for the first, second, and third graders doesn't open until
Till
8:25. So there's a 10-minute gap, there's a 10-minute difference.
I mean, very well, may be the fact that Dan was having one child that's going.
Sure.
And you're dropping them both off at the same time.
Well, then it's not that they're dropping, they're just parking
Right.
and
But that-
just sitting there.
But they're not using that. However minutes there is apart, they're not using it because they're dropping them off at the same time.
Right.
The general thinking, though, when that was discussed, was to get kids to cross at the crosswalk.
Right.
That's where the crossing guard is.
But the problem, you're not gonna get that. I mean, I can tell you now, if someone's parked the other way at the beginning of Grant and Mendez, and because that's the only parking spot they can find, they're not gonna walk all the way down by the first grade door to walk all the way back to the kindergarten. That's not gonna happen. And I can tell you that's not happening, because there are little kids being taken out from their car from across the street and just letting go as cars are coming both ways. And the kids are gonna get hit.
Can't police parents.
Well, we're going to start the discussion and hopefully come up with some kind of, release valve.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else from the public? Okay. Close the public. Resignations. We have one resignation, Bill Ferone, as part-time telecommunicator effective July 9, 2013. Do I have a motion on the resignation?
Move for acceptance.
Second. Roll call.
Barone? Yes. Eisenberg?
Yes.
Ballerini?
Yes.
Fleischman?
Yes.
Surratt?
Yes.
Appointments. We have 3 appointments, or 3 categories of appointments. Jose Hernandez is a member of Maywood Fire Police effective July 9, 2013. Charmaine Joseph as camp counselor in the summer recreation program at an hourly rate of $7.25 effective July 9, 2013, subject to all borough requirements, which includes background check. Kyle Calamaris and Christopher Gagliano as lifeguards for the swimming pool for 2013 season, an hourly rate of $7.25 for Calamaris and $8 for Gagliano, effective July 9, 2013, subject to all borough requirements. Obviously, background checks if you're over 18. I think these 3 came as a result of the recreation director and the pool
Being so
manager.
successful.
Apparently, we're having an influx of membership for the rec program this summer, and it's a good thing. So that's what's triggering this late hire for these 3 individuals. So does anybody wish to make any?
Move the appointment?
Second. Roll call.
Barone? Yes. Eisenberg?
Yes.
Ballerini?
Yes.
Fleischman?
Yes.
Surratt?
Abstain for 1, yes for 2 and 3.
Okay. Council approval. Is this where we want to put this? Or do you want to put this
Yes.
resolution?
No, I
Do
actually...
we have a resolution, written resolution?
No, we're just receiving it, so I have to send it over to the
Okay. The add number 3. What do we rescind? 3-13? Add number 3 to council approval is rescinding prior resolutions. 83-13 and 84-13. They were both the resolutions that started the participation in the state health benefits program in the state of New Jersey for the borough of Maywood as of August 1st. The initial resolution, that's 8313, stated that we were starting September 1st. So by rescinding these two resolutions, the only thing that's happening is we're delaying the entrance to the state health plan benefits by a month. Correct? That's correct. That is correct. Two other items for council approval. One's a request from Maywood Pancake House for outdoor dining permit. Number two is a request from Maywood Fire Police to use Memorial School parking lot on July 27, 2013, from 8 a.m. to 7 p.m. to park participants' vehicles for their Atlantic City trip. Is there a motion on? And then the third one would be to rescind prior resolutions 83, number -13, and 84 -13. Move for approval.
Second.
Any discussion? Roll.
Barone?
Yes.
Eisenberg?
Yes.
Ballerini?
Yes.
Fleischman?
Yes to 1 and 2, abstain from item number 3.
Surratt?
Yes to 1 and 3, abstain from number 2.
The items that we have on the action list, actually. First item is the capital bond issue. The ad hoc committee has met a couple of times now, discussing capital bond matters, most recently last evening. The CFO has had discussions, I believe, with the borough administrator regarding potential capital bond. As you will recall, the last meeting, we closed out approximately $557,000 of unused bonds, bond money, some of which went back to 1995. And there are certain items that we're looking to put together in this capital bond for this year. The committee has discussed and going to make these recommendations to the council for consideration if we move forward with bond ordinance at future meetings. So I guess we'll open it up to discussion at this point between the council about the capital bond ordinance. I know Roberta has a list of items that the committee has kind of put together. And that out. Oh, sorry.
Actually, there's some reason when I copied this, we didn't have some things removed, but it answers some of the questions that came up at one of our committee meetings, so this is just as well that it's on there for clarification, and if you might have the same questions. And the only thing is that the last one on number 11, we took $400,000 on those, and somehow when I copied this, I don't know, printed the wrong one, didn't have it on there, right? One, did you write it down? Because I didn't actually, for some reason, the one on the road.
Oh.
I thought it was 4. Talking about it.
450 plus the grant, right?
No, not plus. It's like 100.
100
and
for
it was
the
3,
remainder of Spring Valley,
it says
210 was
400.
for East Hunter plus 150, so that was 360 for East Hunter. But that includes the 150, so that's 310.
I think we rounded off to 400 so we could include some of the streets that we talked about, even if it's for skimming. We just don't have the names of those streets at this time. Before the bond ordinance is put together, we would have to add those streets so that they are named and don't create an issue. But as you can see...
Why don't we go through them one by one and
Okay.
start discussions and see if there's going to be things added, taken away, or...
One of the questions with number 1, I met with the CFO today to ask if we had enough money in buildings and grounds, and the answer was no, so that will remain in the bond.
And just for the public, the number 1 we're talking about here is the senior citizen building HVAC units, which are no longer functional. So they need to be replaced in their entirety. I guess the numbers that we've looked at are in the $22,000 range.
Right, and tonight we're coming up with a number that's closer to 20,000, but if, 22 isn't going to kill us in the bond in case something pops up that we didn't know about.
And this also ties into another item on the action list, the
Right.
Lime Energy issue, which we'll talk about tonight. But even with Lime Energy or not Lime Energy, this is the number, really the working number
Right.
is 22. It's going to cost either way, basically 20.
Close to that, right.
Well, if you do the Lime Energy, you get 70% back.
No, let's talk about that as a separate issue.
Lime
because-
Energy includes other things
Right.
that is going to still work out to cost the borough $22,000 or for $20,000. It's what you're going to get with Lime Energy, and we'll talk about it.
We don't get anything
It's
back,
lighting,
right.
And the state will absorb some of the other installation costs, but actually the price is going to pretty much remain the same for the borough. But that's number one, is the HVAC units.
Well, the only issue with number one, now, if we wait for the bond, now we're looking at maybe the fall for replacing these units. Maybe. So, the budget still hasn't been stricken yet, we're waiting, right? I mean, we still can do it, well, we can do an emergency appropriation.
You can do an emergency appropriation.
Yeah, we had to.
At least for that one issue, for that one item.
Mhm.
Move forward with that as quickly as possible.
We were hoping that we would have this money, if we go forward with this, we would have the money, available at the end of August, we could schedule this so that it's here before the season changes and before we have to worry about heat. Because right now, we're keeping that building alive on a prayer.
Right.
But the air conditioning is working from the one unit, and we're okay. I mean, this excessive heat that we've had, I don't think it matters what we have, frankly. You can't keep everybody comfortable, and unfortunately, people continue to play with the thermostats there. So even though we have it working, we have people who can't keep their hands off the thermostats, and we have issues, which will happen with the new equipment. I mean, we'll put cages on and everything else. Somehow people seem to find a way to be able to get in and change temperature. But if in fact we can't move fast enough on this, then I would certainly suggest that you do an emergency appropriation, so at least by the second week in September, we have new equipment. The state has approved this, by the way. I got an email today that the state approved. We have to vote on the amount of money tonight when we get into the Lime Energy part of it, and then, the documents have been signed. They were just waiting for a vote from this council to spend that money. But the state has accepted this proposal for them to do the work, and the contractors, a local contractor who I was assured today would be the one that we would be working with, who was one of the people we had gotten an original quote when I went out to get quotes on doing this work originally in late March and early April.
So, I mean, we're on the path with that, so if we
Definitely
move
on the
forward,
path.
the next meeting or the meeting
On
after
this.
the bond, we can time it out that we put the order in.
Absolutely. Basically, I think the equipment is almost ordered.
Right.
So walking by,
Last night, there were
reaching it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's
they're hanging
got
on.
11 minutes left, it's going to stop any day.
Yeah. Yeah, they're hanging on left and right. All right. And that would include, that number includes the replacement of all the duct work and
Yes.
fire.
Right,
sensors.
which is a separate contract, but under, that's a separate thing that I don't need a vote on. I just need a vote on the Lime Energy portion for the $14,068. The balance of that is a separate issue with the contractor for the items that are not included when Lime Energy does the job.
Anybody else have any questions on that one? Again, we'll talk about it, the Lime Energy issue. The next one, the parking lot at Palmer West Paramount. That is the parking area where, next to, across the street from Memorial School. It's utilized a lot by teachers and parents during the school year. The borough does rent out, I think, 10 spaces there on a daily basis for evening overnight parking. And it's in pretty abysmal shape. We've had discussions, I think, with the Board of Ed. They are going to make a contribution. It's just a matter of what amount of contribution they're going to make. I don't know. I think the last conversation I had with one of the board members was that they had an informal discussion. And we're talking, somewhere around the range of $5,000 to $10,000, but perhaps we can talk to them a little more and see if we can share the expense, since they do utilize it a lot.
I asked for half this tonight.
Okay.
Is this a skin coat or is
No.
that?
No. This is,
Mayor, does that include the sidewalks?
no.
No, it doesn't. There are a couple of slabs that are cracked, and I think the DPW is aware of that now. I thought one of them was
It's going to be
replaced. Oh, it's
fixed.
not replaced yet?
No, he hasn't done that work yet.
Yeah, I think they're aware of the ones that have been cracked by perhaps.
The two really bad slabs.
So they'll be replaced, but that's not included in this.
Do you want me to go through, I mean,
Sorry, you want-
number 3 are the Pleasant Avenue turnarounds that we've talked about for quite a while. We had drawings, and the chief picked one design out. There are no pots there anymore. We need to put something in the middle of the turnarounds on Pleasant. These are going to be Belgian block. The one that the chief had chosen had some yellow striping, warning tape striping that's, I guess, part, a permanent part of them. And that, again, is a guesstimate, but we don't think it's going to cost more than that. Number 4 in the library, as you know, we need a new elevator, and,
I guess that's sort of about the turnaround.
yes.
So they're going to be like humps or...
They're going to be a raised, Belgian block raised circle.
You'll be able to
So
drive over
you'll be
them.
able to drive over them so we don't have
Without
constant
damaging the
damage.
I'm more concerned about the DPW.
Plowing over them?
Plowing them and pulling the blocks out.
Well, we'll only know when next snow season. But those were the designs. I'll show them to you. This was last year. The designs were put together in 2012, and we didn't have the money, and that's why they're being put into this bond issue.
Are we doing it for aesthetics? Are we doing it for aesthetics? Because it seems like people drive over it anyway.
I don't.
I think the mentality was to try to get people not to drive over it, but I don't know.
We can put, in those humps, you can put plantings, or you can put signs that mount in there. It's got to be done for safety, because people...
Right, but, I mean, most of you know what happened to the flower pots that were there. They kept getting destroyed, and we replaced them, and then it was last year's council that decided to get rid of all of them. We planted aesthetically, for Christmas and whatever, and for the fall holidays. But at the end of the day, they kept getting destroyed. So obviously, they're all gone now. And this was the determination by both the borough engineer and the chief of how we should treat those turnarounds. They're not big enough. I'm sorry.
My concern is what Mr. Eisenberg's concern is that if there's no markings when there's 3, 4, 5 inches of snow, then we just going to plow them up.
Or if we warn the DPW, then they'll stay so far away and you'll have a gigantic mountain of snow there.
We have that in the middle now.
You lose either way.
Well, a good DPW liaison can take care of that.
They need to be able to be hand shoveled.
Yeah, which is not...
There's no credit whatsoever.
But, I mean, if we do the tall ones again, and if you were to do planters again, you're looking for trouble, and it's not, there's so many accidents with those, and they get pushed aside or broken. I don't think there's any answer to that. I mean, when you go to other
The problem
places...
is that what everybody knows is that these are an incredibly unique traffic pattern.
Right.
They don't exist anywhere else. So that's why nobody knows how to
Cape Cod, but then they're bigger,
But I think something needs to be there to try to designate, to try to warn people to swing
Make a
far
decent
instead
turn.
of cutting it close, I don't know if there is a foolproof answer here.
What about those things that they use that go into the asphalt?
The old rubber columns
stamps?
that they used to have years and years ago.
Because at least somebody hits it, it's just going to roll underneath their car.
Well, they were breaking off too, that's why they stopped using
The
it.
originals of...
Right, or sometimes they cause damage, then there's a liability issue if you do damage to somebody's car, even though if they're driving improperly.
I'd be happy to show you the drawings from last year. As I said, the drawings were done during the 2012 council.
What if the Belgian blocks were not raised but were flat, so that when you drove over it, you feel the bumpiness, kind of like those roofs on the side of a highway, go off the road, they have those bumpy things. You know that you're hitting it, but
Right.
it's not raised for the snowplow.
They're not very raised from where I'm
No,
drawing.
they're not, but...
Visual, I mean, the idea is
I
to
just
create
say,
a
I think you
visual
need
reminder
to
that...
see them. I mean, I'm happy to show you the drawings.
And
You don't hug
then,
the island as you do a U-turn.
you know,
We should have signs that also indicate the turning pattern there as well. I've been saying that since...
I have no problem with signage, but, I mean, as far as, I put it this way, I would not like to hold up the bond ordinance based on the turnarounds. If you want to do something about them,
You don't
well...
have to do it.
Right,
We just cleared out
exactly.
$550,000 worth of stuff that we didn't do, so...
Right. So I wouldn't want that to hold up
I think it's
passing
something that
this
needs
or
to be done.
introducing
We
it.
can all
Right.
come up with a good design another day, maybe.
Yeah, yes, that's good.
The next one for is the library, the new elevator and repair of the hallway that suffered from a lot of water damage, which hasn't been happening since we fixed the roof. But again, when it comes to the repair of the hallway, we wouldn't be rushing to do that. It depends on what stage of construction, the additions that are being made to the library. But again, it needs to be in here, so if we need it, it's there. The fire department, oh, I'm sorry, Memorial Park, number 5, $150,000. There are a few other things other than the ones I itemized. We're talking about new tables, benches, redoing the big diamond, lightning notification system, and repair of the monuments.
Also talking about the retaining wall.
Oh, and I didn't put that in, the retaining wall on Cleveland. Right. I mean, when we get to drawing it'll be more specific.
No, big time.
Number 6, the fire department, new gear. This was a number that we spoke to the chief about, and he felt that this was a good number to get new gear in the rotation. With regard to the municipal building, we're going to be replacing computers and printers. And to answer your question from last night, yes, it can be bonded. You can't bond one, but if you're redoing all of them, yes, it can be bonded. And as you all know, the carpet on both the 3rd floor and the police department are threadbare and tripping hazards, mostly on the 3rd floor, where seams have opened up, and so we're putting that in. Number 8 is the Mitchell...
I tend to agree with the police department. I tend to disagree with the floor.
We could take it out. I mean, I just know that the 3rd floor, where we get the public coming in and where those of us who work there every day can trip and fall and cause you a lot of aggravation. I thought the new carpet would be, much better. But the squares of, I'm not talking about...
The police department, if anybody's been into the police department section, obviously, you have a lot of people walking around there on a constant basis. It's destroyed. It's an 11-year-old carpet that was probably not the greatest carpet in the world to begin with.
Start
but
with.
It's, that I agree, probably needs to be done, or some kind of
Well,
flooring there.
these quotes were based on the squares, because the seams are dangerous. They don't hold up well, no matter how well people do them, and the squares make a lot more sense. If something gets damaged or whatever, you replace a square as opposed to having to rip up a section of carpet. So these quotes were based on replacing the carpet with these squares. The next one, again, there's a note there. I thought that this might be able to be paid out with certain trust fund. According to the CFO, we don't have that, and therefore the numbers...
New computer program.
Computer program.
I didn't think we selected a program. I don't mind appropriating funds for an unnamed program.
Okay, well,
But-
you can, I guess, at the end of the day, but this is the program that both the building inspector and the construction official and the certified technician have used and like, and find that the one we're using with New Jersey permits goes down way too often. So,
I think, excuse me, I think we agree that it needs to be replaced, and I think it maybe should just be a little more vague on...
if it can be in there, I have no problem. It's just a new software
There is
program.
another program out there that's better.
Right.
That we go for that program rather than lock into one particular plan.
That's fine.
Just generic software. That's
Sure.
fine.
DPW, the only thing we've put in is a new pickup truck with liftgate. We used a $30,000 number. We thought that was a real number. And also, that $6,000 tire balancing machine we have to keep in. We don't have it floating around to use. Number 10, I think you will...
Bert, could we
Yes.
just go back to the DPW?
Sure.
I spoke with the mayor, and Mr. Fleischman, about perhaps getting a log splitter. Every time a tree falls down, we have to fill, and we have many trees that come down, we have to fill the dumpsters, and it costs about $400 a dumpster trip, and it's not like they're packed in there tightly. Whatever gets in there, stacked in there, so it's thousands of dollars every time we have a storm. I would think something similar to what Paramus does. Split the logs, find us a place in Maywood where you can have them and advertise that residents can get the logs for free, come pick it up.
Right.
Maybe even out of town, or if they want to pay a fee, or however we can manage it. But if we can get a log splitter, I think that would save us a lot of money.
It's not a large item, but I'll look at it.
It's not. It's probably in the $5,000
Put it in there.
range.
That's fine.
And that's an industrial one.
We have a little room in this.
Okay.
We have the labor and the time within the DPW to do that.
Basically, we saved, I think, when we went to recycling, I think we saved about 52 man-hours a year. Man days, I'm sorry. So I think, we did. And they're loading it into dumpsters anyway, so.
Well, I mean, quite frankly, for what it cost us to get rid of it, we could almost hire somebody if we needed an extra person part-time.
Well, I mean,
There would be enough room in there.
Typically, we've been seeing lots of trees come down in October, so I guess if there's
Yeah.
no snow between November and January, maybe there is some time for that to be
Actually, but I mean, worst case scenario, if you need another pair of hands to do this, what you'd be saving in the dumping fees for the trees and branches and everything else we take away, I think we'd still be ahead of the game. So I'll get a price and we'll look at putting it in there.
I think Mr. Febreze has been pushing for that for a while.
I'm sorry.
I said I think Mr. Febreze has been pushing for that for
Oh.
a while. Maybe we should give it a shot and see
Yeah, well, we'll get a price.
how it works.
Yeah. I mean, what's the worst case scenario? We sell it to somebody in a large split.
And end up with a lot of broken trees.
Right, yeah. Pump house.
Just an FYI, we used to do it years back.
Yeah?
We had a log splitter in the town, or owned one, and they used to split the logs, and they used to give it to the town.
How long ago?
Before everybody had
Your
natural
answer
gas.
is her as well.
No, because I tell you that Donald Carden actually bought the log splitter from the town at auction for $300. He had it for years, and he gave it to me, and I had it for 5 years. So it was around for a long time.
Wow.
Why
So
would
see,
we
there's
stop
hope.
doing it? It was man-hours.
Well, I know, at least last in Sandy, I mean, a lot of the trees were cut to length, left at the curb. People picked up what they wanted here and there, because you definitely didn't have the time during that.
Right.
Too. And then some of the issues you had with some of the dump trucks, when they load up the logs, they dropped them into the dump truck, destroying the body and the suspension of the truck, and then dumping them in space that we really don't have. So if there's a site we can use and dump it for a while, that's, find it, maybe figure it out, plan it.
Yeah.
We're in the middle of reorganizing where we store everything anyway, so that's to be part of that plan.
Absolutely.
Between, Memorial and the building down below, so it's definitely something to consider.
Pump house could roll the line, sell that property.
Well, except for when we get flooded there. Wet logs. Wet logs.
We'll be in the raft.
We go into the paper business. We'll make paper. Wet logs make paper, don't they?
I think Paramus does in their pool parking lot. I mean, there's something that can be,
Yeah.
even if you just leave it, rather than chopping it up and waiting, then you just chop it up and log, split it and leave it right where you leave
Yeah.
it normally. I just think it would save some money for the borough.
Absolutely.
Green initiative.
We have nothing to lose by trying it.
Yeah.
Number 10, as you all know, we definitely need to do the locker rooms over at the pool, and so that stands by itself. I hope to have enough quotes to get this work going and done like the 3rd or 4th week of September. So hopefully we have this money in place. And the last one is the road work, the balance of East Hunter, other than what the grant is paying for, section of Spring Valley Road that wasn't done in the last road projects, sections of Elm Street, and other small streets to be named for a total of $400,000.
Just add one thing, I don't know if it would fall into number 11, but what about that catch basin, and that's right next to the crosswalk. Fair amount of money more than school, which is collapsing as it comes.
I think-
It's part of the Fairmount project.
There's right by the crosswalk, it's been there for...
Oh.
That's the memorial.
I think I have some estimates. There are 4 that I'm looking at now that have to be fixed, and I think that's one of them. But I only got one quote. I need to get some other quotes on that. But I think it's one of them. If you'd like to call me tomorrow, I have it on my desk. But I think that's one of the ones we included.
So, Roberta, I'm not sure where you are with the police department, but there's a couple items that I know the chief has for consideration. One is radios. They switched to narrowband, and we now experience dead spots in town with the police radios. So he's been working on getting quotes for a more modern system. It's actually satellite-based, very cutting-edge technology. It actually gives the senior members of the department the ability to maintain radio contact just about anywhere they go.
But is that something that the DEA money could be used for?
It cannot.
Cannot.
No.
It can't be used by radios?
It cannot.
According to the chief?
According to the chief and the review with the DEA, yeah, that was submitted for consideration and rejected. So the radios is one, and the other would be the replacement of the vehicle, the police vehicle that got totaled. We had some reimbursement from the insurance company on that, but we don't have any budget for the remainder. I think he got $12,000 or $13,000 in the settlement, and
Right.
normally about $25K for a new car. So that may be something you want to talk to the chief about as well.
I would talk to the CFO about that before putting that into a bond ordinance.
Okay. But the radios, the first quote he got on the radios is about $100K.
If I remember, that was something we were looking at
But it was
last night.
the chief feels it's a very high quote.
Are they encrypted, the radios? Good question.
Probably not.
What would be nice?
The cops use their phone more than we use the radios for that kind of stuff, that kind of conversation.
Mr. Floyd, when's the last time you, as a tenure here on the council, you went through police radios?
Yeah, I think the police radios, they were the first ones to switch over to the narrow banding. It was back in 2010 maybe. I think they were the first to go over. Yeah, so what they have, I know there was an issue with one of the units downstairs at the desk. And then-
Yeah, that's been resolved.
And then there was
The
a-
remediation of
and there was
the
a
antenna
repeater.
situation is about a $200,000 job.
There was a repeater issue that I believe was resolved at the end of last year or halfway through last year, which was some of the dead spot issues. And I think that even the EMS crew was having some dead spots in town because of that. And we did share the repeater cost, I believe, at Rochelle Park that time as well. So what individual unit radios they need, I don't know. If there's even upgrades to the narrow banding system already, who knows? I mean, the technology goes...
The chief's advice was that the cost to remediate the system that they have now would be more expensive than procuring the satellite-based systems. And we have, for instance, a captain who lives in West Milford. He'd be able to actually keep the radio on in his house and maintain radio contact with the police department. So there's advantages to the newer system.
All the front desk equipment or the dispatch equipment, that's going to probably tie into the discussion of if you want to do something else with Paramus, the county, or whoever. If you're going to spend $200,000 on the police desk, maybe it's time to look at ponying up with somebody else's system.
I'm not sure I understand what you're saying.
If you're going to replace all the dispatch equipment for $200,000, now might be a time to do dispatching with Paramus, the county, or wherever else, whatever other options.
They have the same issue. They have the same dead spots in town that we have.
I'm not so sure that's Paramus's issue, but we can look at
Well, I mean, we have a technology issue in the town. We went the route of replacing our telecommunicators. The folks that wanted to communicate from Mawa with the Maywood police would be able to do so in those dead spots. We'd have the same issue.
I'm not so
We have
sure.
technology. Well, how wouldn't we? We don't have another. If we had another communication system available, we'd use it. And that would make more sense, right?
No,
We have
not
dead spots
another
for
city.
radios.
Everybody's on the narrow banding.
Right.
Everybody's on narrowband.
And there's dead
So
spots
by
now.
us taking a 2010 narrowband unit and buying another narrowband unit,
It's not another narrowband unit.
well,
It's
we
a
all
different
have...
technology.
What's that?
It's a different technology.
All right, well, we don't have any, it'd be nice to see the information on it, whatever it is. I
Yeah, yeah.
don't have any problem adding it.
Well, that's why I'm bringing it to Roberta's attention, that she should talk to the chief. But I don't think outsourcing the desk fix the technical problem.
We'll see.
I think that deserves a little more discussion, and maybe Councilman Eisenberg would take a look at that because of his expertise in that area. So that said, by the next meeting, if there are any questions or any thoughts, I think we need to be able to introduce this bond ordinance if we're going to. I mean, we have to be realistic that these are things that we need, and we cannot wait until October, November, December to get this money. So I think, take a good look at it. If you have questions, please call me, you want to talk about it. I think we should do that. So at the next meeting, we're prepared to go ahead with bond counsel and get this moving. I don't think we want to do special, emergency appropriations for everything that breaks down between now and the end of the year when we can avoid that.
Nothing will break down between now and the end of the year.
Except for the HVAC system at the senior center. What's that?
Well, let's keep thinking on this one. Hopefully get the ball moving. Anybody else have anything on this? Can we move on to the next item? Next item is the JIF. Sorry.
No.
JIF.
No, I'm fine.
Next item on the action list is the JIF renewal.
Which is renewable every 3 years, and we have to adopt by resolution to participate in the South Bergen Municipal Joint Insurance Fund.
And I have a meeting on the 18th with our insurance representatives to go over the renewal and see what, if anything we have to add, anything we can take off, and if we're going to stay in the JIF, obviously.
Quick question, if we do vote staying, just that we have to, a month down the road, we get a better price, or we decide, with the state.
On the JIF?
Are we locked in?
There's nothing-
No, I understand it, but I'm asking,
Yeah, for 3 years, that's what it is.
we're locked in,
Yeah.
that's my question, we're locked in
Yeah.
for 3 years?
Yeah.
Okay.
But I don't think everybody who's been here longer than I have, I don't think we've had an issue with the JIF, frankly. I think it's worked well for us.
Report back to us.
Sure.
After your meeting.
Yep.
We have to do this by August 31st, so we have some time.
It's going to be tough to beat a JIF. Anytime you're involved in a JIF, it's just such a cost saving for the town that
For auto insurance alone.
Right.
it's buying at Costco. You can't-
It's very hard to beat. And it's the service that we get and everything else, frankly, along with the JIF, dealing with people who are in the same position that we're in.
So, on the way forward.
Lime Energy, Mayor? As you know, at the last meeting, Councilman Fleischman talked about this audit that was done by the Lime Energy folks, and the program is now in 80/20, not 100%. They gave us a estimate for following work, which includes the new HVAC systems at the senior center, includes the lighting, which we don't necessarily need at the senior center, but it's part of this, aerator, faucet aerators, or So, all in all, we had gotten quotes earlier this year to replace the HVAC, two 10-ton units at the senior center, with prices ranging from $19,000 to $26,000. The proposal that you see in front of you from Lime Energy is for the 2 units, the economizers. It does not include, and I just did a little tour today with our construction official because of his background. I wanted, his opinion about certain things that I thought, because this proposal does not include replacing the ductwork. The ductwork between the building and the units is deplorable. And I know that if it were my own home or anything else that I cared about, I wouldn't be replacing new units and keeping ductwork that's falling apart. It is not insulated, it is not waterproof, and it's rusted and decrepit. So in order to make the Lime Energy proposal equal to the proposals that we had previously gotten, the total now comes to $19,000 and change, closer to the $20,000. So the lighting is kind of a throw-in, and it's a great thing, but as far as the HVAC and the quotes we had originally gotten, we're pretty much in the same ballpark. We would be paying Lime Energy this $14,068.61 for those 2 units and everything that you see, and we would be paying the contractor separately about $5,200 for new ductwork, smoke detectors, and new switches, because Lime Energy will not replace those type of things. They come in and just dump machinery, but if you want to be connected properly, and they've done this in other towns where things were installed, and then the town was kind of stuck with. So we looked into it, and Reiner, who was one of the people who gave us a quote earlier, is the designated contractor. I confirmed them with Lime Energy today, and he told me that we would be able to use Reiner, which I prefer to do. They're Lennox units, which our construction official, Jim Mazer, said are, top of the line. A lot of people don't use them because they tend to be more expensive, but that would be the units we're getting. So with the $14,068.61 from Lime Energy and the $51.95 that we'd be paying separately to Reiner, the total would be $19,263.61, and I really only need your approval for the $14,000, because I feel at this point everybody else is pretty much around the $19,000 to $22,000, but with Lime Energy we're getting the lighting, which again, it's not bad to have new lighting in the senior center, and there'll be the switches that the ones that come on and off when you walk in the room. And whether we save, that senior center isn't used as 12 hours a day every day, so whether or not we really save as much as they're saying, we will have new lighting in the building for the same price as just having the other units replaced.
What do they estimate the savings is?
The estimated savings were around $22.95 per year for energy cost.
Do we know what our energy costs are there to begin with?
I have the bills. I didn't add it up because frankly, that part of it wasn't an issue. We needed to replace the units. That's how the whole thing started.
Yeah.
So with this coming our way, it just made a lot of sense as long as we are getting everything that we need. In other words, 14,000 and change would not have done it. We would have just gotten 2 units and economizers, no new ductwork, no smoke detectors in the system, and no new disconnect switches. And as I said, to spend any kind of money and not have the connecting, equipment new too, to me, it doesn't make any sense.
So what's your recommendation?
That we go ahead with Lime Energy at this point, because we will at least be getting the lighting, and it'll be 2 separate contracts, and I don't need your approval for the $51.95, but we signed this paperwork. The other thing was that we had to get this in by June 30th, supposedly to qualify, because you have to have the same account number with PSE&G for 12 months, and last month PSE&G changed all our account numbers. Now, I don't necessarily buy that, quite frankly, and I wasn't able to confirm it with the BPU, but it's a new point. We know we had to do this, and the prices are fine. Let's go with them and get the extra lighting. So, that's where we are. And Reiner will be our contractor.
What exactly is Lime Energy?
Lime Energy is
What I mean from a
broader.
Vocational or,
It's just another contractor. It's a third-party provider. In fact, they quoted me for doing the maintenance of all our buildings because they had done some work here, and their prices were 3 times as much as I'm paying with somebody local for maintenance. So I didn't go with them for maintenance. They're a third-party contractor. In other words, they have the contract with the state of New Jersey for this direct install program, but they don't do the work. They then contract, they sub it out to people like Reiner in Bergen County and other contractors in other parts of the state,
so they're a middleman. Right?
basically.
But by going through this middleman, you're entitled to some subsidies.
There's no,
Where do they get the money to give us back? Where does it come from?
it comes from the state of New Jersey with this direct install program, clean energy. And I mean, you know, if you look at the sheet I gave you, and other, well, maybe not on that one, but some other ones, they're charging $16,000 a unit to the state for something that we could get for $10,000 if we did it by ourselves. But I don't think, you know, the economizer is $1,600. I'm sorry, I'm losing my voice. $1,600. I could get them for $900, but we're not paying the $1,600. So if the state's willing to pick up the other and we're not paying it, I mean, maybe we are on our taxes, but
Yeah, you don't
I'm
get
not
money
You
back.
said it's 80/20.
Right, if you, the total price was 40 something,
70/30 or 80/20?
80/20, I think. I think it was 80/20. 70/30, oh, I don't know. To be honest with you, at this point, now, you know what, it didn't matter to me at the end of the day, because if we're paying them $14,000 and I'm adding 5, and we're getting the lighting, and I would have paid somebody else 19 without the lighting, I don't really care, you know, it's just, it's a benefit. At least once we added what we needed into it. Yeah,
Yeah, you're a little ahead of the curve because we get the lights.
Right.
The LED light, but
right, and whatever they're doing, or the state's
I think the current
overpaying.
lighting is...
Well, you know, Jim and I were there today, and we counted everything and looked at it, and do we need new lighting? Not necessarily, but if we're getting it for the same prices, we're doing
There'll be a
everything.
reduction, LED certainly burns less than...
Robert, is there a layer of bureaucracy that we're going to have to deal with that's going to delay getting this?
No, we've been approved by the state. I got an email yesterday saying that we had been approved. My deal with them was, I had to get the paperwork in by June 30th, which we did last week, and with the provision that if I didn't get the vote tonight to do this, it was null and void.
Okay.
And they confirmed that with an email last week, and they're waiting on this vote tomorrow. They probably, you know, except for the fact that...
We can put this on for a resolution for the next meeting, right? At this
Right.
point, we'll not...
Well, as long as they know that we
Correct.
approved it, it's fine.
Right.
Because we don't have the money right now unless we do the emergency appropriations, so.
Well, let's put it on for the next agenda for authorizing it.
Okay.
All right, anybody have?
No.
Okay. Next, I guess, add-on item. Mr. Dillon?
Yeah, you know, Mr. Mayor, as I said, we had a number of discussions around adding a K-9 service to the Maywood Police Department. If you recall, we had a presentation by Captain Hoffman and Chief Pegg with regard to one member of the department being assigned to K-9 service. The officer's out right now, unfortunately. He was injured in a traffic stop, or an arrest following a traffic stop. So it's not really urgent that we do anything tonight with this, but I did want to bring it back to the council, get it in front of the council for consideration and review, and perhaps put together a resolution where the council can either approve or defer on that program. But it is no cost to the borough. The chief's arranged for all the services that are required to be donated or funded through the DEA set aside.
Does it include the vehicle?
I believe it does, but we can go back and double check on that for you.
What about the officer coming in on overtime when he would otherwise be off, when he's needed with the dog, say he comes in at any time and a half?
So that's definitely a possibility. It's an extension of, normal police activity. Generally speaking, the K-9 service that the officers are using are involved in seizures, and those seizures generally have revenue associated with them. We've been looking to do the K-9 service as an extension of what we're doing with the DEA. We've actually spoken with the DEA liaison, who is running the program with our officer, and he's made it clear that towns like Maywood that have an officer in the DEA program are the first call for these canine support units. So when they do seizures, and there are forfeitures associated with those seizures, the percentage of our collection goes up in return. So the fair estimates are that it'll be self-funding. I mean, it wouldn't be anything that would be an additional burden in terms of overtime or anything like that. Fact is, we bring neighboring towns in for that service now, or the county. So it's a program that has a number of benefits beyond it. I don't know, was the presentation done for this council? Okay. So I'm not going to go through the whole thing. I mean, you have it, and I'd be winging it if I were trying to go through it item by item. But if there's areas of specific concern, that's kind of what I wanted to put on the action list. So let's get the conversation going with the chief again. We'll bring the officer in who's volunteering to run the service.
Okay, the concern that I could talk to the chief about, and maybe we need to talk to him again, is obviously if we're getting called out to other municipalities with this dog incurring overtime costs, I would rather not see our police officer get called out to a Route 17 traffic stop in Paramus because somebody may have a bag of marijuana in his pocket.
That's chief's discretion. I
The
think the chief indicated
chief's
that.
discretion on that may wind up having a massive amount of overtime associated with no seizures, because we've got the dog, and that's a concern.
Chief, have the ability, like you said,
Chief's discretion,
they have the ability to say no.
they're not required.
Yeah, I mean,
They're
that's
certainly not
right.
required.
I would certainly not.
He was the officer.
Yeah, no, I think that would have to be made clear that this is where we're going with this.
The officer does not have just like any other officer that's called in for overtime, nobody can be forced to report for overtime, right? They work their shift work, and if there's an opportunity, if an overtime situation occurs, they have a list that they go through to call these guys, so.
I would just think that we should look at getting overtime in line before we consider anything that would exacerbate additional
Overtime isn't the numbers this year versus last year are dramatically different. So I'm not advocating. I don't mean to advocate. I've actually asked the CFO to provide for our next meeting a view as to where we are this year versus last year, this year versus budget. There's no good sense in creating additional costs, right? This has to have necessity service that has benefit.
Can I make a suggestion?
Sure.
Can we have the chief come in and address the council, because the last couple meetings, we've had quite a few police issues that we could probably get his opinion on. One item that was brought up a couple weeks ago was possibly another police officer. We had a police car issue, canine issue, radio equipment issue. Maybe we can have the chief come and address the council on all of those items.
Sure.
That's possible.
Sure, you'd be happy to.
That's okay with the mayor?
Sure. You can, I guess, maybe you can help us out with this reporting,
Yeah.
give us those numbers.
I have requested the CFO for that as well. The second one was the PEO, the parking enforcement officer. Again, if you remember, the chief came in, he gave us a proposal to add a second parking enforcement officer. These are not sworn officers. Their job is simply to patrol certain areas of town, to look for parking violations and write those tickets. Again, the chief's presentation on the parking enforcement officer that we have now, who is part-time, works hourly, no benefits. The fines that result from that program fund the parking enforcement officer and then some. The simple request that was made by the council was just had the CFO verify that. So I've asked the CFO to do that, to verify that the numbers did match up to the way that they were being interpreted by the chief. He'd like to add a second part-time officer. Right now we have, I believe, 3 days coverage. So he'd like to add a second one to add to make that 6 days coverage.
I think that we have old numbers and that we need new numbers, frankly, between the e-ticketing and everything else. I think that we need to see what the new revenue stream is, so. Get that.
Yeah, I mean, that's certainly part of it, right? Again, to the point of adding expense without adding benefit, there's certainly a benefit to having our parking ordinances enforced.
Right.
From a safety standpoint, from a convenience to the people who shop Pleasant Avenue. If it's something that we can do and use the proceeds to fund it, it makes sense to look at it. So, thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Add-on item was sanitary place, the water situation there. Not something pressing, because I had a lengthy conversation with some of my in-laws. In-laws grew up at 220 Sanitary Place, which is right next door, basically, to where the water situation is occurring. The recollection for many years is that there was a massive amount of sump pump activity on that street. It seems to be some kind of shift has occurred in groundwater, which they have reported to me that on a few of those properties that you could dig very shallow holes in the backyard to see water come up, you'll hit groundwater quickly, but obviously there's been some, if it truly is groundwater that's causing this, there's been some kind of shift for some reason. I don't know that there's been any massive construction in the area other than I guess the Borough Town Center may be the most recent thing, but, quite frankly, that occurred, the groundwork over there occurred 4 or 5 years ago. So,
Doesn't mean that shift, because of that, couldn't show up a few years later.
I guess, I don't know, I haven't cracked out my geology books lately.
Me neither.
But,
But I know what happened at my own home because of that. It took a few
but
years.
something's obviously occurring with the groundwater and causing a problem. And whether or not, I think we have to address it somehow sooner than later, because we're going to get into the freeze season, and I, being associated with my in-laws for years, I remember somebody across the street from them had a problem and was discharging into the street, and it pools up at Briarcliff. Come the winter, it's the ice capades down. Now, this drainage is on the other side, on the south side, and it's pooling up at Briarcliff. And come the winter, we're going to have problems. It's a steep grade at that intersection of Briarcliff and Sanitary. One, I think we'll start the conversation, I guess, with Negley Engineering, and I guess
When he's on vacation, when he comes back, I think he'll have more information for us with regard to a
maybe a
proposal.
solution that involves, running a line and collect the stuff from the street to get it to the catch basin underground rather than keeping it above ground, but I don't know. It's obviously a pretty bad problem.
We've got to figure out what's coming first. Where's the storm sewer that you have to...
Briarcliff.
How far?
Probably 200 feet, 300 feet.
Yeah, to do most of the street.
I might have to throw back, get Negley to give us some numbers and
Well-
see what's involved.
It's not such a long distance.
It's not, and my brief discussion with the engineer was that there's a cheap way to do it and an expensive way to do it.
Right.
We'll have to find out, obviously, where it's coming from first.
And United Water's been involved?
They've been there twice to do testing, and they found nothing. It's not coming from a leak of any kind from United Water. They've tested, as I said, they've been there twice, and have done 2 different tests so far.
I would presume it's not coming from one of the dwellings, because somebody they have an astronomical...
It's got to be a spring. It's got to be, it's underground water that's just found a new way to surface.
There
and
is
it's-
low or high groundwater,
Yeah.
I guess, over there.
Could be an underground spring. It could be.
Well, I mean, if they could dig down in their backyard and have water coming up, there's, according to this relative that I heard the story from.
But we need to get on it before January or February hits, or else we're going to have some problems over there.
Sounds like we need monitoring wells.
No, I don't know. If it is groundwater, I think we find the solution. If we find out where it's coming from, it may not be the solution. It's just going to be piping it away from the street. That's going to be the solution. And maybe directly into the catch basin. So,
Hopefully the engineer will have some more info for us
Yeah.
for the next
Yep.
meeting.
we'll keep this on our action list. All right. Anybody else have anything else on the action list for anything else? We do have a couple of items to close. No resolutions by title. Going to dump the board, new business, old business. Language. Motion to go into closed session? So moved. We're going into closed session for what type of item? Personnel items?
Contract negotiations. That's what mine is.
Personnel item.
Be resolved by the mayor and council of Borough of Maywood, I'm subject to the vote.
We didn't take a vote.
Barone?
Yes.
Eisenberg?
Yes.
Scalabrini?
Yes.
Fleischman?
Yes.
Surratt?
Yes.
Be resolved by the mayor and council of Borough of Maywood pursuant to provisions of the Open Public Meeting Act, the mayor and council in closed session to discuss the following subject matters of personnel and contract negotiations. Be resolved that precisely determines the time of discussions conducted in said closed session can be disclosed to the public upon taking final action thereon, provided disclosure shall not violate the attorney-client privilege or constitute under invasion of privacy. Be resolved the mayor and council of the Borough of Maywood do not envision any concerns open session after this meeting, but reserve the right to do so.
Hey, Jim, how are you?
Good. Get anything on the
Nothing at all.
sub-pump surveys?
Nothing.